boy named Sohel was very much attracted to black magic since childhood. He was very fond of black magic. He thought that if he knew it, he could possess great power. He had great respect for tantric or black magicians. One day he got the news that a black magician had come to their area and taken refuge in an abandoned crematorium. One day he went with his best friend Robin to meet the black magician in crematorium. The man they went to meet was named Enam. Sohel expressed his intention to that man, but Enam refused to accept Sohel as his disciple. He turned him away. Sohel came back with Robin. The next day, Sohel wanted to go to crematorium again with Robin, but Robin didn't want to go. He said that he was very afraid to go to that abandoned crematorium in the dark of night, and also he was very afraid of the man, Enam. After hearing this, Sohel left for crematorium alone. Reaching the crematorium, Sohel saw only darkness and silence all around. Enam was nowhere. Then he heard Enam's voice from the darkness. Enam asked him, "Why do you want to learn black magic? The soul of one who learns black magic is not liberated in the afterlife." Sohel replied to the black magician that he knows all these things, but he has a lot of interest in black magic. Once Sohel was able to convince Enam told Sohel, "I will teach you black magic, but before that, I will test you. That test is a test of courage. I will teach you black magic only if you can pass that test." Sohel was very brave, so he agreed to him. Enam told Sohel to come on the next new moon night. When Sohel came to Enam on the night of the new moon, Enam told him the location of a certain grave in a cemetery and asked him to cut off the head of the dead body inside that grave. After being entrusted with such a strange job, Sohel decided to ask Enam some questions. But Enam told Sohel before that, the prerequisite for learning black magic is that you have to do what I ask you to do without question. And in order to learn black magic, you have to do a lot of strange and crazy things. When you start learning, you will know the use of these objects in black magic. And remember that when you cut the head and start it to come, don't look back even if mistake. Not even hearing the voice of a familiar person calling, shouting. If you look back, then nobody can stop your death. Sohel went to the specific grave in the cemetery that Enam told him. He first looked around to see if anyone was there. Then he started digging the grave. Sohel was not afraid while cutting off the head of the dead body because, as I said earlier, he was very brave. But when he was returning with the severed head in a sack, someone called his name from behind.
Sohel!
Hearing the call, Sohel stopped. He thought, "Who will call my name here?" Immediately, he remembered Enam's words. He walked straight with the severed head without looking anywhere else. But from behind him, various shouts, cries, and calls of various people's voices started coming out. Once he heard his mother's voice, but he knew none of them were real, all illusions. When Enam saw that Sohel had passed his test, he was happy and took him as his disciple. Enam was old, so he was looking for a brave disciple to do all the physical work for him. Gradually, Sohel came to know that from that head human skulls are made and used in magic. But that head will not belong to anyone random. The head of a virgin girl who has died by suicide is cut off on the night of the new moon after chanting certain mantras. However, it is not always that Sohel cuts off the head of the virgin girl's corpse. Many times, when a black magician dies, Enam told Sohel to cut the black magician's head. That head was not used in any magic. Enam just keep it for himself to increase his power. Enam told Sohel, "When a black magician dies, if you can keep his skull, you will have all the powers that the magician had when he was alive. All the demons, evil spirits, and jinns he subjugated will be your slaves." Sohel believed everything Enam said because he saw Enam summoning demons and talking to him with his own eyes. Enam did a lot of work with demons. Gradually, Sohel learned a lot from Enam, and also because Enam was a very powerful black magician, he knew many types of magic, and many demons and genies were his slaves. But compared to that, what was being taught to Sohel was very insignificant. So Sohel became desperate to learn more from Enam. But Enam told him to be patient and learn slowly. But Sohel was not willing to accept Enam's words. He wanted to have more power in a short time. One day Enam suddenly called Sohel and said, "Make me a promise. If I die, you will never cut off my head for the greed of power." Then Sohel promised that he would never cut Enam's head. As Enam grew old, he gradually fell ill and died suddenly one day. Sohel had to do all the funeral work because Enam had no family or relatives. After completing the last rites, Sohel began to think that Enam was very skilled in black magic. Many ghouls and genies were loyal to him, but Enam could not teach Sohel the knowledge of how to subdue demons and jinns. Now if he cuts off Enam's head and keeps the skull with himself, then the demons and jinns loyal to Enam will be loyal to him, and he will have much power. But immediately Sohel remembered his promise to Enam. At the same time, he thought he had made a promise to the living man. If I don't keep that promise after Enam dies, the dead people will not come to ask for accountability. In fact, those who practice black magic do not have the knowledge of good and bad because their hearts become impure. Their conscience and intelligence get lost. So he had no problem cheating the guru from whom Sohel acquired this knowledge. The next day was the new moon. Sohel decided to go and cut off Enam's head that very day. The next day Sohel went to the graveyard and started digging Enam's grave. Once he finished digging the grave, he opened Enam's face. Then, when the head was about to be cut off, Enam's dead body inside the grave suddenly opened its eyes and laughed loudly and said, "Sohel, you promised me that you would not come to cut off my head after my death, yet you broke the promise and came here. Now you will get the punishment." Saying this, Enam's corpse held Sohel with both hands and pulled inside the grave, and the soil started filling the grave automatically from both sides of the grave. And the whole grave with Sohel was completely filled as before. The next morning, Sohel's family and local people searched a lot, but Sohel was nowhere to be found. No one could know that Sohel is lying in the same grave with Enam.